And now we'll be also taking a look at this romance gone bad, if you like, about the story of a female soldier who was detained by the army for accepting proposal from a youth corps member. If you like, you would say, well, a soldier has fallen this time around, but not by the bullets, but fallen in love. And so we'll be looking at that story just by way of introduction for those who may not have heard about this story. A female soldier, her name is Hannah Safiat, is still in detention after a video clip of her accepting a marriage proposal from a youth corps member in Kwara State went viral. Now, a military officer said that the female soldier was never arrested, but only going through a normal disciplinary measure to send a clear warning to others who may attempt to flout military rules. Now, the soldier is accused of violating military rules and regulations. Human rights activists share their perspective on the issue in this report. Take a look.
On Sunday, detained a female soldier, Private Anna Sofiat A, after video clips of her being proposed to by a male corps member at the National Youth Service Corps Orientation Camp in Yikbata, Kwara State went viral on social media. The issue has stirred a lot of controversy. Some say she has the freedom to choose who she falls in love with, while others say the public display of affection is an insult to the Nigerian military. Some human rights activists also share their thoughts on the matter.
Rules are rules, yeah. They are meant to be kept, especially within the military circle and all. But in the past few years, where has those rules led us to? With the way, if you're doing something over and over again the same way and you're getting the same results, it's about time you step outside the box a bit so you get something totally different, and then see this is the era where we have to move away from the archaic way of doing things so much. We have to look at other countries and how they have handled their people. You should not just be looking at other countries, the negative parts, where maybe it favors the government. How about looking at other countries in parts where it favors the people as well? We've had so many stories around, not everybody readily wants to hear the military. It's just associated with pain, grief, agony. So it won't hurt, or it didn't hurt to see. I think I read one of those posts, I saw the comments, and then people were actually really happy that, oh, so the military has a soul to read. Marriage is something that is respected anyway, and this is a process to get into that point. So why is it such, it's such a crime that you're detaining these people when we have more serious things to think about? How about we put the same energy into fighting Boko Haram, into fighting the attacks that we have every other day on Abuja-Kaduna Road?
I think some mistakes were made, mistakes that emotions got the soldier carried away, sadly, and in uniform, she got swept by emotions and did things that their rules forbid. For instance, that's the Nigerian Army, prestigious Nigerian Army uniform she was wearing. I'm minded by the fact that emotions and sentiments here and there is such that to leave her alone, I'm minded by that fact, and I'm minded that because we are a people mostly ruled by sentiments, this may not be a very popular position, but you see, we have to face facts. Rules are there, put in place, and the standard expected of a civilian is not the same standard expected of a soldier. Before you enlist into the army, the rules and regulations are there and you sign up to it. There is a Latin maxim in law, voluntas non fit injuria. It simply means once you've waived your rights by signing up to the army, for instance, you really can no longer complain about the injury of you not being allowed to express yourself in the way you wish to express. There are several reasons why rules and regulations are put in place in the affair of man, especially also in the military. It is so that a certain standards of discipline and even protection of the personnel is also guaranteed.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Well, there you have it. The video there showing you that report, how activists are responding to that issue. Now, we have two lawyers in the studio. Sam Cabo is in the studio with us, and also Mary Ikoko. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Yes. Now, we'll get the legal perspectives, but let's have a sense of the argument put forward by the, well, not an argument, but the statement put forward by the army. One of them is that she is guilty of fraternizing while on duty at the official NYC camp, and is considered an amorous relationship with a trainee. Also, they said that personnel must have served for 3 years before he or she can qualify for marriage in the service, and then that means to suggest that she has not been in the service for up to 3 years. Then the statement also says that she disobeyed the Armed Forces of Nigeria standing guidelines and directives for the use of social media. Third, that's fourth. And then fourth, indulging in romance while in uniform. And then the fifth one was that her conduct was prejudicial to good order and military discipline. So these are the reasons put forward by the army for detaining that soldier and planning to take disciplinary action against her. So let's begin with you, Sam Cabo. What are your thoughts around this particular story?
Well, let me start by giving them the benefit of the doubt. The military, the armed forces in general, is one of the most disciplined and guided institutions of the country. If you go through the Armed Forces Act, there is a law governing almost every aspect of the soldier's life. It's so detailed. Detailed in the sense that there are laws governing what you do when you are sent to a particular place. If you are acting as a sentry, if you are acting, whether or not you are guiding a place, the rules specify what to do and what not to do. It's a well-detailed law. But let's make some clarifications here. I do not think that the punishment or the concerns of the military is about romance. If it is, then obviously I can't find in any of their rules a provision that prohibits romance. I would also not think that the proposal is a marriage. If you say somebody cannot get married until he's 3 years into the force, well, that's a good law, but that does not by itself prohibit a proposal. Because
having a relationship.
Yeah, no, it does not. Of course, she's first and foremost a citizen with all the rights of a citizen. She has all the rights that are provided for in the Constitution. She has to be her person, her dignity. She cannot be discriminated by virtue of her own being a soldier or whatever it is. If you can benefit from romance, you should. benefit from romance because what? Like I said, she's first and foremost a citizen. If you go beyond that to say, yes, she was sent there to do an official duty and she uses official time for private purposes, you may have an argument or a case. But beyond that, you cannot say because she indulged in a romance in uniform. No, the uniform by itself does not prohibit romance. It is the official time. The official time that it should be in issue, not the uniform. You can wear the uniform at home. If you are married, it does not prohibit you from wearing it at home.
Okay, so because of time, let's quickly get the thinking of Mary on this. What are your initial reactions?
Well, just let me just you say you have two lawyers in this one. So you have a lawyer, a learned gentleman, and an educated lady. Okay. I mean, it's a beautiful profession as well that maybe very soon, sometime again, I will change that career. So my initial thought when I saw, first off, when I saw the proposal, I mean, seeing a military, a person in uniform, being knelt down to a proposal is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. And I think that the Nigerian military would have just taken that in and enjoyed that victory, because all we've seen is a monstrous kind of outlook at people when it comes to military. So that is one beautiful PR slant that they lost. They decided not to take on. And that's quite understandable because of, I mean, they have their set guidelines and rules and code of conduct that, you know, they must follow. Now, this young lady, I don't quite, I've tried to check around the military roles, and I haven't seen anything that really stops her from accepting a marriage proposal. But the knack I would have around this whole thing is the PDA. Now, nobody, if she had been proposed to in my time, I've been married for about 22 years, was proposed to in my time, maybe we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't have been done publicly. It would have been a more private kind of event. And again, the young man, I also see, beyond what the military have cited, I also see people reacting to, now this is my personal opinion, and that is how I see it, is the power differences that is being at play here. There's a power difference where it's a bloody civilian is proposing to a military, and a copper and a military woman, I'm seeing a lot of power differences here, which they can't stomach it. I may be wrong, but this is how I feel about it. The extent of, you know, detaining her, I quite feel strongly that the punishment is not measurable. I don't think it's, I think it's way out of just accepting a marriage proposal. That punishment, I don't know what would now happen if she steals or if she does something more grievous, you know. I'm a bit concerned about that whole thing. And then when we talk about rules and the code of conduct for the military, I quite understand it. It's not just the military. Every organization, even the church, you can't come to, maybe you're a pastor, there are things where you are expected to dress and show up. It's in the same way in our businesses, in a corporate. There are ways you are expected to show up. There are things you're supposed to take on. There are characteristics you're supposed to wear. There are values you're supposed to project. So I think that is where the military will have their case to, a case here. But even in having that case, you also have to understand that there's a public that watch what you do and actions or your inactions towards everything that goes on. And then that law that they are talking about may be an archaic one. They may need to go back and review some of these things. One, I will tell you that some of our laws have been outpaced by technology. So if you look at it, that tech has made it so easy for everything to be out there. So they may need to rethink some of this law and tweak it to suit today's Nigeria or today's world. Because over time we go on seeing the, let's say for instance, the US military. You see them go to the war front, you see the communication between the military guys or their wives or the women and their spouses and children, their families. You see the romance that the American government tried to show the world, the human part of the military, you see. So they send bouquets of flowers or the surprise kind of parties that goes on before a military personnel returns home. They throw in some surprise and things like that. It makes the military more amiable, more lovable.
Give it
more
a human face.
side.
the main side of it. And I think Nigerians desire that kind of opportunity as well, so that our military would also be embraced and taken on.
Now, one of the reasons, one of the issues raised is the fact that, first of all, she flouted social media rules, and also she took advantage of a trainee. You know, considering the fact that the trainee is just, you know, for 3 weeks, and after that he goes back to being, you know, a civilian. But I also know that there's a rule in the military that they don't marry each other. So why is it an issue? Why is it? Because people actually seem to think that it is beyond her, you know, wearing the uniform. Yes, I know the video actually showed the extent where he took her cap and wore her hat, and I feel that is actually wrong.
Okay. Well, you may want to respond to that before I come in.
That's like a follow-up question. But really, the flaunting of social media rules, I quite get it. Every organization, like I said earlier, have their rules. So, like if you work in the intelligence office, I do not expect you to act like a Nollywood star on social media. The reasonable level of circumspect that I expect from you, you can't have it all out there. So that is one, and that is where I feel the military will have a case there. Now, and when it comes to 3 weeks, and I understand the issue of taking undue advantage of someone you are to supervise. It's the same way I see, say, I like to use this analogy. So you are an au pair, a maid, in somebody's house.
Okay.
And the man of the house takes advantage of her, you know, having an affair with a maid. By law, that man should really be treated in the same way that you've taken an undue advantage of somebody under your care, under a subordinate.
But when we talk about taking advantage, is it not when the issue of a minor and
fine? That's the point I'm saying.
Is in place. Let's
a minor in Nigeria. First of all,
I'm talking about the context of the core member.
Yeah, talking about
but let's get Sarkabo's thoughts.
I don't think that it is 3 weeks. 3 weeks relationship cannot just morph into a proposal. It may, but this particular case, I have a feeling, I believe they've known each other before they come.
And let's not forget that is the core member that is actually giving out the proposal here,
yes.
not the other way around.
When you're talking about fiduciary relationships, they are categorized and they are clear. For an example, they say, what do you call them? In the Catholic, the priest and the laity. Somebody comes to you, spills his or her heart to you, you owe that person a moral responsibility, you know, to take advantage of that. The teacher and the student, yes. But you made the right point. These are two adults. You understand? These are two adults, irrespective. It could be instantaneous. The fact that you are training a youth corps member does not subordinate that youth corps member to you. What we all went through National Youth Service. We went through the training. Those trainings are just about you but passing and all of that. It has nothing to go to your conscience and your character. So that fiduciary relationship is not there. That cannot be an argument. And let me emphasize what he was saying when he tries to make the analogy of the American soldiers. The American soldiers participate in pageants, beauty pageants. They participate. One of them has even won the American beauty pageant. They participate in music competitions, rap competition, mic competition. What they try to do is to disabuse that myth that the military is all about what? War. They try to boost and push out that humanity in them to say we're part of it. And that is the only way you could also encourage others to come into the force. If you make it so guarded and you give the impression that this is a Philistine institution that is all brawny and no other social aspect of it, then obviously I won't want to send my kid to it. You understand? So they are, like he said, they miss the point. An opportunity is here that you could just what? Escalate. Push to the public to say, this is who we are. You understand? So coming back, let me put it as a lawyer. I am saying that except British law. The laws they have, say when you are subject to military law, there are laws concerning how you deal with the enemy, abetting, aiding the enemy. There is also law against what they call military morale. It comes to military, what would I call it now, trademark or get up so that you don't give the impression that they are loose or whatever it is. But to me, what if it had been the other way around? A male.
In fact, we have seen pictures online.
Yes.
We have seen pictures. We have seen pictures online of you know, couples or even male soldiers who wear their regalias, taking pre-wedding pictures, for instance.
That is
posting them on social media.
That is the pride.
That is
the pride. It's a usual.
It's a matter of
That's
pride.
why I said I see power difference here, because if it was a male soldier, are we going to be having this conversation?
Okay,
because we've seen pictures of male soldiers proposed and all that, and no action was taken.
Okay, now let's also talk about the rights, you know, the constitutional rights of the person in question. Yes, she's a soldier.
Yes.
There are code of conducts, you know, operating in the military. But again, she has inherent constitutional rights of association, for instance, you know, and all of that.
Yes.
When you juxtapose that with this code of conduct, is there a way out somewhere there?
No, there's a thin line here. You see, they say if you voluntarily subject yourself to an institution, just like so rightly said, every institutions have their laws, they have their regulations. As long as those regulations are not in conflict with the Constitution, you are bound by them. But because you have those constitutional rights, which are the base rights, every other law must get its breathing and life from the Constitution, you must point to a very specific rule that's British. You cannot, by your own intuition, say, I don't think this is right. The law does not contemplate, I don't think this is right. It has to be what? A specific rule, because she is trained to obey those rules. So she cannot be hard to say, oh, I did not know. No, she would know. But like I said, I've gone through the Armed Forces Act, and yes, the law gives the Armed Forces Council, the Army Council, the Navy Board, the Air Force Council to make rules for their own officers and even their ratings. They give them that power to make those rules. But those rules have to be there. It is not rule for an individual to use his own intuition or his own moral perspective. No. And that's why I said, of all the institutions, unlike the Police Act that you don't find as detailed as the military, is so detailed. every aspect of the soldier's life is regulated by law. And that is why they have the martial courts. And that is why some lawyers could get their PhD in military law, because it's so detailed, over 400 provisions regarding the life and times of a soldier. So you cannot, like I said, I've gone through that. I did not see any of those provisions. Perhaps they have sub-rules. I'll give it to them. But to me, the substantive law is very clear as to what a soldier should do and what he should not do.
So now the military is actually concerned about deterrent, you know, for others not to also throw the same path and abuse, you know, the uniform of the military. We have a similar case some weeks ago about a comedian, an online comedian, who is also an Air Force, a naval officer.
Yeah, so
a naval officer who will usually do skits, you know, online and post them, comedy and all of that. And sometimes he even uses the uniform, and he was detained, you know, at some point. So how important it is, really, you know, as much as, yeah, we understand the context in which this, you know, the romance went wrong, you know. We also want to also ensure that the military is an institution that is respected by all and not, you know, played with. So how do we
except,
that?
You see, let's define what it did. Is it odious? Is it something that it's morally blameworthy? Is it something that you will not want your child to do? Those are the questions you should ask. But just like Sir rightly said, some of these things, until they happen, the authorities would not see reason to have a rethink. The public is now defining or giving them an opportunity to redefine their moral code. The public is saying, we are okay with this. It is not in dispute. The fact that he's wearing the uniform is something we should be proud of. And I think why the thing went viral was the fact that what? People consider it to be something worthy of what? Emulation. They cannot by themselves say, because they are a military institution, act against the public interest. No. The military is an institution of the state. It is first and foremost a property of the state, and the state is made of the people. At the bottom of the state is the people. Every other institution acts for and on behalf of the people. Yes, they are at the boundary of national security. They are the ones giving us reason to go and sleep. But they do not own us. We own them, and therefore they cannot define morals or our morals for us. For us, as individuals or as a public, we consider that a very worthy and something that we think the military should encourage. Let them encourage, so that our young boys and girls, we shouldn't, as parents, find it difficult to convince our kids to join the army.
Okay.
I think that it's serving as a deterrent. If the military would want to use somebody as a scapegoat, it shouldn't be romance. It shouldn't be something of this nature. Maybe when you see a military, I've seen videos of military brutalizing and manhandling civilians. In fact, I've had that experience, and no military was detained. We've seen scores and scores of these incidents where military men in uniform, you know, abuse civilians on our roads and our communities. Those are the people that the military should use as deterrent, and not people who are showing love, people who are accepting marriage proposals, and a young Navy officer making a skit in his uniform that projects the military in a human form, that shows that actually does good to the military. So I think they need to just retweak.
Well, maybe we should take her around the the spirit of the laws or the codes in the first place, how they came about, what were they thinking, what were the rationale behind, you know, taking a decision, say, such as, for instance, you cannot get married after joining the force except you are up to 3 years in the service and such, you know.
I think
Okay,
it's discipline and to avoid distraction. They may be thinking that marriage is a distraction for an officer who is just coming into the force. But what about those who go there on short-term courses? Would they also be subject to that? Mind you, you have rules. The law allows you to go in, say, for 12 years, 18 years, 22 years, all of those ones. And you also have short-term, like a medical doctor may just say, I want to come in just for 3 years. Are you not saying within those 3 years, he cannot engage in any romance or be involved in any romantic affairs? So, like she said, they would have to take a look at those rules and see whether or not they conform with reality.
Okay, now...
You know, my problem with this issue of having to step back for 3 years on a job is not just the military, even the banking sector, different other organizations. You have to, so I think the banking sector, you have to do for 2 years. So different organizations have all these rules. But my problem with these rules is that it's set for, it's not, it doesn't have gender character. And that's a challenge, because that rule does not, it affects the woman more than it impacts on the man. Do you tell a man not to get married? No. The man can get married, but that law is really more obvious when a woman is involved. And that is where we need to really look at it and say, you want to waste a woman's time. You are actually shortchanging a gender when you make such policies. If you're going to make policy about a military officer not getting married 3 years into service, it should be both for both male.
No, it's actually for both.
It's for both.
Yes.
But you can't. You can only take effect on the woman, because if a man is married and conceals it, how do you know he's married? He's married, quite all right, but the bane of reproduction is on the wife, and that wife is not in the military. So when you make such laws, it affects the woman more than it impacts on the man. That's just
okay. Now,
the point
this
I'm making.
particular story actually brought to the fore a particular rule in the police, with the police, that says a woman is actually required to write an application, you know, to the commissioner of police, you know, before she, and he has to approve her request to even get married, you know, so making the police a plenary guardian.
Yes, in addition to that, I recall some maybe last year or some months ago, where a policewoman was suspended or dismissed from the service
2 years ago.
for getting pregnant, you know, getting pregnant for someone or something. Yeah. And that happened. It also went viral just like this. You know, we were having that discussion.
That's why
so
I say
maybe we look at all of that.
All of that.
And they also have to choose. They have to confirm, choose, and make sure.
It's not just the police. A lot of these military and paramilitary agencies, you know, even the TSS, even the NIA, all of those things must happen.
Okay. Now, one other angle to the whole social media show and display of this, I tend to think that it's also partly for the safety of the person, because let's not forget that this is a security personnel working in the security sector. So, in that sense, don't you think that it's something to uphold? You know, looking at the fact that if you open yourself up to the social media space, you are exposing yourself to some sort of danger, especially in these days when we are dealing with issues of kidnapping and the rest of them.
It's an adult. Yes, you know the consequences. In law, they say volunteer non-fit injury, meaning that you cannot complain about an injury that you voluntarily engage in and know the consequences, you know. So let's leave it to them to make their decision. We are all products of our decisions. Whoever you are today in life is based on a decision you took yesterday. So for an institution to play God over you, I don't think it's right, because what? Like I said, your constitutional rights are there, and what the Constitution tries to do is to create a buffer between you and the state or any department of the state or any institution whatsoever. You can only give this much of yourself. Those things that the law has taken away from you are there, but the ones that are preserved by the Constitution don't come under any guise, either as a superlord or a better thinker or an overseer or whatever. The law would frown at that. So let them make the decision. Yes, the only other aspect of it that may be of concern is that your relationship may not be what? Detrimental to the institution as a whole. And if they say let them do some reality check or background check over the spouse you are intending to marry, the reason is that, for an example, a police is not expected to marry a 419er or to marry an armed robber, because what? She will infiltrate the organization, and she'll be what? Very detrimental to the organization. But beyond that, let the rule be fair for both gender. Let it not be gender specific. Let it be a general one that male and female will be subjected to, not for it to be tended towards one. Because at the end of the day, once you wear that uniform, you go to work, the bullet from the other side does not pick and choose your gender. And if you go to war, for an example, the bullet from the other side will not say, I feel mercy for the woman.
All right, we're actually running out of time. Let's hear your final words.
Well, I think that, like you said, I believe that every institution do have their laws and guidelines. And with what has happened, the military, yes, this young woman, this young military officer may have gone against their own rules, but you don't, the sledgehammer is quite big at this time around. So I think that the military really, even though they are empowered, I think that is one point we missed out. The officer has her constitutional rights to marry, to be involved in romantic relationship and any of that. But even that constitution has also empowered the military to make their laws. And if she signed up for those laws, she has to also come under the laws that guides the code of conduct that guides the military. But on a final note, I should think that there's a reason all of these services, critical institutions, do a kind of background check on people's spouses before you get married. And that's what he's actually gone into detail to explain. It is very important that you know who an officer is getting married to. But what we don't check is if the officer himself is the armed robber, what now happens? How do you now deal with that? But that's not saying you have an officer that is an armed robber anyway. But these are all human characteristics, and you can find them in any place, in the military and all of that. So, but final word, please. This lady officer is a woman who has been proposed to. And in our culture, it is the man who proposes to the woman. A man, albeit a core member, has proposed to this sister and she has accepted. And it is a beautiful, the most beautiful sight I've seen in recent time around Nigerian military. So let the Nigerian military really take advantage of this. It is an opportunity. It is a win for them and not something else. What they are making it is not what it should be. They should deal with the issue of their laws, do that strategically, but they should manage this better.
In other words, temper justice with mercy, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, then, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us. We really appreciate it and look forward to having you again on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, we've been speaking with Sam Cabo, a senior lawyer, and also Mary Ikoko, who said that she's learned but not a lawyer. Thank you so much.